boxing. Man, shut the door, sit down, clean your ears, and stop listening to what your mama needs you to be doing right now. You're going to listen to the Boxing Podcast. Man, okay. Hit it. Starting 3, 2, 1, 0. Guys, welcome back to the podcast, and I'm going to tell you guys the truth. This is my fourth time re-recording the intro, re-recording the first part of the podcast. It is very difficult, but let's get through it. Today we are going to be discussing UFC 259. Really, that's about it, and then just a teeny bit of boxing at the end. But let's get into it. Probably the most important news, and the one that, I'd say it's probably the most important news, is Israel Adesanya lost his undefeated record yesterday against Jan Blachowicz. And I don't think it was an impressive performance by Jan Blachowicz. And I don't think he won. And I don't think Israel Adesanya should have lost. But this loss, Adesanya losing, confirms, in my eyes, and maybe many of the UFC fans' eyes, that the UFC is not rigged. I mean, and I say that because Israel Adesanya being the undefeated fighter, you would think that the UFC would be like paying the judges off and saying, hey, dude, give our boy the win. He's undefeated. We need him to stay undefeated in order to fight John Jones. And that didn't happen. That did not happen. To my freaking surprise, it did not happen. I really thought they were going to give it to Israel, although I was a little iffy on who really won. I mean, I did think Israel won, but I thought that it could go to John just because he took him to the ground. But we'll get into that in a little bit. So, that proves it. UFC's not rigged. Even Dana White was a little upset. In the post-fight interviews, he was talking about how the 10-8 rounds did not make sense, and I 100% completely fucking agree that the 10-8 rounds did not make sense. I mean, yes, Jan Blachowicz, I butchered that so much, did take Israel Adesanya down twice, but that's it. He took him down twice in round 4 and round 5, and it wasn't impressive. He didn't batter him on the ground like fucking cookie dough. He just fucking took him to the ground and kind of couple of punches in on the sides. I mean, even Israel got some punches in. And that's the thing I don't get about takedowns in the UFC. It's like, okay, cool. Like, you could put a man on his back, but it's not really damaging him, you know? I mean, the one part that hurts the most is when you slam him. But that's it. If you can't do anything to him once you have your opponent on the ground, bro, you can't get a 10-8 round just because you fucking put your body on top of a man for like more than half the round. Like, what kind of shit is that? That's what's gonna make the UFC boring. That's the kind of shit that's gonna like make the UFC look just boring. It really is. I mean, if people if fighters start getting in the mindset of if I take this fighter down for more than half the round, then I'll get a 10-8 round. Like, everyone's gonna start doing that. Everyone and their freaking moms are gonna start doing that. And I don't agree with that. I think Israel should have, I think it should have been 10-9 rounds, probably. But also, I think the fourth round, it was even. I mean, Israel did do a lot in the first half of the fourth round. And then when Jan was able to get Israel to the ground, that's kind of just, everything kind of stalled. I mean, they're just on the ground pushing each other off, trying to get them back on top of each other, and no action really on the ground. And that's probably my least favorite part of the UFC, is when fighters just have each other on the ground. One of them's trying to strangle the other while the other one's just playing defense, and they're not really getting anywhere. But Israel didn't seem really bothered by the loss. I mean, in the post-fight interview, he was just saying, losses are a part of life, that he's had many losses in his life, and that this is just the first one in the UFC. So I love his attitude, and I love that he says he wants to go against the boxing model. And everyone knows how the boxing model goes when you lose your O or your undefeated record. And that's not pretty. I mean, no one really. I mean, to lose against somebody and then to lose so much value, it just sucks. It takes a lot out of a fighter because it makes them very depressed. Everyone's so depressed when they're not an undefeated fighter anymore. But man, I've seen fighters who take losses and they come back and they're freaking legends. And you know who I'm gonna point to? Manny Pacquiao. He suffered like a ton of losses, not a ton, but a couple, and he's a legend. So good mindset, Israel. And then I'm sure a lot of people went to go see what Jon Jones tweeted. Everyone's probably on Jon Jones's Twitter during and after the fight. Surprisingly, Jon Jones didn't really slam Israel too hard, but yeah, that fight's still happening. Like, there's no way Jon Jones versus Israel Adesanya isn't happening anymore. That's still gonna happen. I don't know when, but the only thing that I'm a little worried about that fight is, Israel Adesanya isn't undefeated anymore, and it kind of takes away from the steam of the fight in my eyes. And I know we're trying to go against the boxing model, and I know I don't even want to say that because it almost just seems like I'm going against what I believe in, and I am. But it's just like, it's cool when a fighter's undefeated and then they're going against, you have the man going against the man, and it's like you have so much to lose, and your undefeated record is one of those. But I mean, if you look at Jon Jones, the only loss that Jon Jones has is that disqualification for using downward elbows against I forget who. But so yeah, they're both kind of undefeated in a sense, and so now we won't have that. But still, the animosity between these two fighters and the storyline between these two fighters is still very much there. Jon Jones being the more decorated veteran, and Israel Adesanya being the younger, up-and-coming legend, I would say. So that fight's still going to happen, and what happens, people are going to be watching, and it's going to make a lot of money. So the next thing is the Petr Yan versus Aljamain Anderson. That fight was probably my favorite out of all of these fights. And I'm going to say from the get-go, Joe Rogan and Daniel Cormier, you guys need to calm the fuck down and give fighters a damn chance. And it's crazy that I'm saying that against Joe Rogan and Daniel Cormier because I freaking love them. But holy cow, were they being super hard on my boy Aljamain Anderson, Funkmaster. I'm just going to call him Funkmaster because I love that name. He was doing so good. At the beginning of the fight, he was coming in quick. And Daniel Cormier didn't like that he was coming in quick because he just seemed so fast-paced and that he was losing his balance. And yeah, he was losing his balance towards the end of the fight, but that's because he was fatigued. But at the beginning, in the first 2 rounds, when Funkmaster was putting it on Petr, he was putting it on him. He was quick. He was fast. I mean, to fight at such a fast pace and to be so crafty, leg kicks, and you're striking with your fists, and then it just looked beautiful, man. Honestly, it looked to me what Aljamain Anderson looks like in that ring is like a fast Conor McGregor coming forward and just boom, shot after shot, boom, shot after shot. And you don't see that kind of fast pace in the UFC, man, because it's scary. When you fight that fast pace, a lot of the time, especially coming forward, you can get caught by anything. I mean, but he was doing great. I loved his performance, and I think he did a lot in the first 2 rounds to say that for him to be proud. I mean, he was very upset about the way he won. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But I think Aljamain, you got to give yourself some credit, man. You did great. Although the end of the, you were fading a little bit towards the end of the fight, but still, we judge a fight based on all 5 rounds, not just the first 2, not just the last 2, and not just one. I mean, you got to look at all the rounds in the fight. And Aljamain, I'd say, if the fight did end up going to the scorecards, I think for sure you had a chance at winning. Petr just had strikes that when they land, they just look like they do more damage, and that's probably because they did do more damage. He hits a lot harder, but still, you can't discredit what the Funk Master was doing. And here's the crazy part, yo. I had my money on Petr. I talk about DraftKings because I'm trying to get a fucking sponsorship here, but I went on DraftKings and I put some money on Petr. I'm not going to say how much money, but it wasn't a lot, honestly. I lost $70. That was it. But I never bet. And I finally had the balls to, and I did a little bit of research, and I looked at Petr, mean looking guy. Like, you guys know, Petr looks mean, Russian dude. I thought, I'm going to put my money on the Russians because Russians seem to be taking over the UFC as of nowadays. And so I bet some money, and holy cow, to be watching the fight, at the beginning, Aljamain winning, and then me getting a little worried, and then to see Petr start putting it on him, and you start to see like, oh, okay, this is starting to go the other fighter's way, and so I'm like happy because Petr's winning, and then the knee that gets him disqualified. I mean, I didn't know that was gonna get him disqualified, if I'm being honest. But when they said he got disqualified, I was like, yo, dude, so do I lose my money? Do I lose my money when it comes to freaking betting? Does disqualifications count? And, I went on the little app and I lost my fucking money. So, yeah, you lose your money if your fighter gets disqualified and he loses. Yes, that is very much a thing for anyone out there trying to bet. I'm going to stick to blackjack from here. And so, yeah, crazy, and everyone already knows the situation. Petr had Funk Master on the ground. He was holding his head down. Petr looks over to his corner and says, do I hit him? And his corner responds to him in Russian. The only person that really understood what was going on at the time was Khabib Nurmagomedov, who overheard their corner, and they said, yes, hit him. And then that's when Petr delivered a knee, which was illegal. I think it's illegal when you have your fighter on the ground, like both knees, like when they're not on their legs standing, and then you knee them. I think that's illegal. That's what makes it illegal. Because obviously when you're standing, you can definitely knee them. So, yeah. And it was weird when Petr landed that and Aljamain Anderson falls back and he starts reacting to how to the pain of Petr's knee, illegal knee. It's hard because a lot of the time, when you're a fighter and you're losing and you finally and you run into a situation where you can get out of the fight because your opponent did something illegal to you, some people might want to seize the moment and just go full bananas, acting as if the strike that landed on them hurt really bad. And I'm not saying Funk Master overreacted, but it's just hard to say these kind of things because I care about the health of a fighter. But sometimes I do think that, I feel like he did sort of overdo it or overreact with how much it hurt. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say because, you care about the health of a fighter and you don't want them to continue if they really did get injured. So, but in my eyes, if I'm not being judged, and if you're asking me truthfully in a locker room talk, I would say that Funk Master did look like he overreacted, and maybe just so that he could win the UFC championship. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on it. But Petr was pretty cool about it. He understood. He even went to Twitter and he apologized by saying, "I apologize and wish a speedy recovery to Funkmaster MMA. I didn't mean to throw an illegal strike. I just made a big mistake and paid for it." But he also retweeted Jon Jones' tweet of encouragement. At first, Jon Jones tweeted, "Aljamain came in great shape. He fought forward every second of that fight. Not his fault he got illegally kneed. Congratulations, champion. You did it." And then Petr retweeted that shit saying, "Anthony Smith should have taken your title," taking shots at Jon Jones. I don't know. It almost feels like Petr just tweeted that for the sake of PR, not to look bad, and because he's over here talking shit about Jon Jones. But no, I agree. I think Aljamain should be proud. I think that, you don't want to win the belt like that, but he still did really good in the first two rounds. So I give it to him. I think it's fine that he's champion. And, you move on. They're going to run it back, obviously. So, Aljamain, just get ready. Because, you were fading towards the end of that fight. So, good shit. Good shit, guys. The next fight, which I'm not going to take too much time on because, I don't know, dude. Amanda Nunes, she just steamrolled through Megan Anderson. And it's, to me... it's not really worth watching Amanda Nunes fight anymore, just because she's either too good for her competition or the competition isn't good enough. She just absolutely destroyed this girl, man, and this girl was like a foot taller. What it looked like, and it's crazy because as soon as these female fighters feel Amanda Nunes' punching power, they freak out, man. Like the first punch that lands, they wobble, and then after that, they just go on total defense mode. They run from Amanda Nunes, and they lose their concentration in doing that, and that's when Amanda Nunes just charges forward, because it's so obvious to see when your opponent is just backing up and they're in defense mode and they're flighting, they're running, they're trying to get away from all of your strikes. And that's when Amanda Nunes turns up the pressure. And that's when she's scary. And that's when she'll knock you out. So, yeah. Not to say that Amanda Nunes isn't an exciting fighter to watch. But it's just her competition looks like crap against her. And I don't know. The only other fight I really kind of enjoyed, and I thought, the opponent had a chance at defeating Amanda Nunes, was when she went against Chris Cyborg. But, even in that fight, Amanda Nunes looked like a fucking devil. I don't know. Yeah, it's different. And, as a casual fan of the UFC, sometimes I forget that Nunes does have some defeats on her record. She actually went against, let's see. Oh, my God, I don't even have this pulled up. But... she does have defeats on her record. She has, some losses on her record, and so she's definitely beatable. She's human. She's experienced the loss before, so it'll be interesting to see if any of the up and coming female UFC fighters can, meet with Amanda Nunes and put a defeat on her record. But I don't think so. And next we got coming up this weekend is Juan Francisco Estrada versus Roman González, Chocolatito. So this is a crazy fight this weekend, because if you're looking back at the history between these two fighters and the common opponents they have faced, it's insane, because in 2012, González has already beaten Estrada by unanimous decision, right? But then fast forward to 2017, González loses to Rungangfai twice in 2017. The first loss, a majority decision. The second loss, a 4th round KO. And then González fights Estrada twice. And shit, I didn't write down the dates. But González then fights Estrada. And in the first fight, González won by majority decision. And in the second fight, Estrada beats González by unanimous decision. And so now, almost 10 years later, 2021, Estrada now has a belt and he's fighting González again. And that's freaking crazy. That's okay. It's 9 years, but I like to say almost 10 years because that really emphasizes how long it's been. That must be so weird because 10 years ago is just such a different time when it comes to a fighter's skill, abilities, and everything. I mean, it just so much can change. And so the Román González that Juan Francisco Estrada fought back in 2012 is not the same anymore. So it's going to be interesting to watch. And then, I don't know, I just feel like I was watching Román González's last fight against Israel Adesanya. I mean, I'm not a big-time Chocolatito fan, but it's just, to me, it's crazy to see a guy that's regarded as one of the best to ever do it take so many punches in a fight against a fighter who is relatively unknown. I mean, I don't know who Israel Adesanya is. And he just kind of stands there and he takes punches. I mean, his defense is weak. He just puts his hands up, but people are always able to, his opponents have always seemed to be able to break through his guard. Even with the hands right in front of him, people are just punching right through his guard, getting him to the side, getting him with uppercuts. And I don't know. I guess I don't like seeing the punishment that Román González takes. And if he's gonna face Estrada like that, I don't know. I guess we'll just see, man. We know that Roman has been sort of on a decline. He's not what he once was. So I guess that's just what really makes it interesting. And for Estrada to be the guy that KO'd Chocolatito, and now that they're gonna fight, I don't know. We'll see. That is this Saturday on DAZN. Shout outs to DAZN. But yeah, guys, that's all we have for episode 3. And I'd like to do one shout out. And we're doing a shout out to Paul Rose from Novi, Michigan, United States. This is actually my boy. He's dating my cousin, Talia Sanchez. So shout out to both of you guys. Yeah, guys, look forward to episode number 4 next week. God damn, I don't even know. Yeah, episode 4 or 3. God damn it. It's episode 3 coming soon, guys. So I will be putting this podcast out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Soon, I will be submitting what we have recorded so far, and we will get ourselves on that platform so that you can listen to us while you guys work out, while you guys cook some dinner, while you guys are falling asleep, while you guys are doing whatever. So yeah, thank you guys so much for the support, and see you guys next week. Signing out.